إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين آمين. اللهم أرنا الحق حقا وارزقنا اتباعه وأرنا الباطل باطلا وارزقنا اجتنابه. اللهم سمنا من الشيطان الرجيم. رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقهوا قولي. وصلى الله تعالى على خلقه محمد وآله وصحبه أجمعين برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين. My dear brothers and sisters, it is probably not a mystery or not something that you have never heard of. As a matter of fact, you may have been struggling with this yourself in your families. Most Muslim families are going through major struggle these days with some of their children who are truly struggling with their faith and openly or secretly denouncing their faith and going out of Islam. I have been dealing with this situation for so often, and I have spoken to imams in the communities all over the place. A few years back I was in California, and I had invited all the imams from the surrounding local communities, about 8-10 of them, and I presented them all the issues that our youth are struggling with about their faith, and that something should be done seriously about it. But unfortunately, nothing happened. I'm not sure why we are avoiding this issue, but we can no longer afford to avoid this, because our young people, and as a result their coming generations, are going out of hand. I'm going to give you some information about what's happening right now based on research, so that you're not listening to my stories. I have personal stories to tell about it, but I would like to point out to you some research, because that's what we all want to know. What does the research say? What do the science say? This issue of people moving out of their established faith, the faith they were born in, is around the world. It's a global issue. It's not just as Muslims, but Christianity, Judaism, Hinduism, Sikhism, Buddhism, you name it, and people are actually walking away from their established faith. So researchers have studied this and are studying it, and they are on the internet, we can find them. It is not amazing, it is not surprising that people in all faiths are moving away from their faith. Why? Because their faith don't seem to meet their needs. Their faith, their beliefs do not seem to meet their needs, or they don't make sense to it, or they don't buy it anymore, or they are being made afraid of hell and heaven and those kinds of things, and they don't want this garbage. So they're moving out of it. And this is common of it. Like, for example, churches around the world have been worried about their decreasing number of people coming to churches. Big time. Churches have been closed and sold because their membership is going down. People are not coming. Similarly, studies have been done on Muslim youth and Muslim communities around the world in many, many, many countries. It's been published. The most recent one is reported in March 26th of 2025, this year, by an organization called Pew Research Organization, PEW. You can look it up on the internet. They report that studies of Muslims leaving the faith often cite a discontent a discontent from religion or specific interpretations of religion, as well as negative social and personal experiences. A substantial percentage of adults who were raised Muslims no longer identify with any religion. It says, it is reported that in the United States, a bit less than 25% of Muslim youth from the study sample that they studied no longer identify themselves as Muslims. They either stop subscribing to any religious beliefs or call themselves agnostics. And some become atheists. You know what agnosticism is? Anybody? An agnostic person believes that it cannot be proven ever that there is a God. It cannot be proven ever that there is life hereafter. It cannot be proven over that there is a hell and heaven. It cannot be proven that there is a life hereafter. So I believe in it. Why believe in it? Maybe there is, maybe there isn't. And some completely deny the existence of God. The agnostics say maybe there is, maybe there isn't. But we don't know, and we can never know. So why worry about it? Atheists are those who basically say there is no God. It's just all nonsense. But interestingly, the same report concludes that a similar number, a similar percentage of non-Muslims are entering into Islam around the world. Allahu Akbar Kabira. A similar number of non-Muslims are reverting to Islam around the world. This is how, like Allah mentioned in the Quran, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala replaces those who turn their backs to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Like Allah says, I'll bring people who would willingly want to submit to me, who would willingly obey me, if you choose to turn your back towards me. And we see this example of this now. And the research is proving it. What are some of the reasons why these Muslim people are giving for departing from their faith? One person wrote, I left Islam, please listen to it carefully, and it must ring a bell if you're listening carefully. One person who quit Islam wrote, I left Islam as a child, born Muslim. I left Islam as a child because the idea of any theism just does not suit me. And I also did not like my father's view of Islam and could not connect with it as it felt tainted by him. This is a very common problem in our community. We have our own view and our own understanding of Islam, and we impose upon our kids that view. I mentioned to you last time a case, and I keep mentioning these cases to you because I deal with them all the time. A husband, a father saying to his family and his children, if you don't pray salah behind me, then you're not a Muslim. Then you are disobeying Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You must pray behind me, because otherwise you are disobeying Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala by not respecting me as the leader. Now, which Sharia says this? You know, I've been working with this family for 15 years almost. 15 years I've been working with this family. This is the recent incident. All their kids have left Islam. Every single one of them. Why? Because the father is imposing his interpretation of Islam. SubhanAllah, he will not go even to a sheikh to confirm it. He said, I know, I don't need to go to a sheikh to confirm it. You know how often this happens in our community? Please think. When a husband or a father demands that his wife or his children must obey him regardless of anything, because it has been mandated upon them to obey him regardless of anything. And the problems it causes in the families. It's very, very common. And we are losing our families because of those kinds of attitudes. A Christian commented, he says, I grew up Catholic, but when I hear about the potential suppression of the rights of women with some sects of Islam, I can see why young women would leave. These are all quotes. And in my practice, I see this true. How many sisters that I have dealt with and not dealt with openly say, Islam is not fair to women. Allah has treated women as second class, somebody to serve the mankind. And all the evil is in the women, etc., etc., etc. We don't have the same rights in Islam. Islam's religion and its interpretation are all by men. You know how many of our sisters are believing this? It seems to me, from my personal experience, that more women are denouncing Islam than men because of these kinds of things. And how is it that they end up these kinds of feelings and thoughts about Islam? How does that happen? This is something really seriously to think about. The New Republic Journal, dated 24th April 2015, this was 10 years ago, cited a 2012 Gallup International poll, which found that 5% of Saudi citizens, this is now 15 years ago, 10 to 13 years ago, that this was reported, found that 5% of Saudi citizens, yani more than 1 million people, self-identify as convinced atheists. The same percentage is in the United States. 19% of Saudis, almost 6 million people, think of themselves as not a religious person. In Italy, the figure is 15%. And the study reports the actual exact figure of former Muslims may never be known, as most remain in the shadows to avoid detection. Those who have outed themselves say they live in permanent fear of punishment for their lives and oppressions in their communities. What does that tell us? We in this community, we the parents and families in this community may not know exactly what is the depth of this problem in this community. But just based on my experience, I can tell you that not a month goes by that I don't deal with one or the other of these cases. And most of these cases, when these young people come to me and say, I don't think I'm a Muslim, or I don't think I can believe this, or I don't think this is fair, I can cite you examples after examples after examples. A young person from high school comes to me and says, I have a friend who is a gay. He's a very good friend. He's a very nice friend. He works hard, he studies hard. And I'm friends with him. And I don't see there's anything wrong with him. I don't see that we should condemn them. I think we should accept them. Because I don't see anything wrong with him. He's a good guy. These are not uncommon things our youth are struggling from. And some of the adults. A Twitter campaign in Britain in 2015 had thousands of ex-Muslims from across the world tweeting their reasons for choosing to abandon Islam. These range from intolerance in Islam, inferior status of women, to the absence of freedom of thought. Millions of people around the world are tweeting this, Muslims. Like I said, it seems from many of these reports that Muslim girls are quitting Islam more often than Muslim men. And like I said, I can give many examples of this. You know, some ulama have written books with the title, "We need to save our daughters. We need to save our sisters from abandoning Islam." Books, written whole books about just this topic. Therefore, my dear brothers and listening sisters, it is so important to understand the risk that we and our future generations are facing. For Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has warned us in the Holy Quran. I'm going to read 2 verses to you. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. ومن يرتد منكم عن دينه فيمت وهو كافر. ومن يرتد منكم عن دينه فيمت وهو كافر فأولئك حبطت أعمالهم في الدنيا والآخرة وأولئك أصحاب النار هم فيها خالدون. Whosoever of you turns back from his religion and dies as a disbeliever, then his deeds will be lost in this life and the life hereafter, and they will be the dwellers of the fire and will live there forever. And one more. Allah said, إِنَّ الَّذِينَ كَفَرُوا بَعْدَ إِيمَانِهِمْ ثُمَّ ازْدَادُوا كُفْرًا لَنْ تُقْبَلَ تَوْبَتُهُمْ وَأُولَٰئِكَ هُمُ الضَّالُّونَ. I'm not sure how many of our parents and the leaders in the Muslim communities even understand the definition of what is irtidad in Islam and the rulings of Sharia in this regard. I'm not sure that people think about it. I'm not sure people know about it. There's a very famous person who wrote a book about this issue of irtidad in Islam, Dr. Tanzilur Rahman. In his book, Islamic Law About Irtidad, about 300 pages book. After mentioning the rulings of Maliki, Hanbali, Shafi'i, Hanafi, Imam Taymiyyah's sayings about this, concluded the definition of irtidad and who will be considered a murtad as follows. He concluded, after quoting all the Aimam, he concluded that everybody agrees on this definition of what is irtidad and what is murtad. Any person who is cognitively of sound mind, he's able to think. He can cognitively understand and think rationally. And who is matured, that means he's baligh, adult, and able to make choices. If these 3 conditions meet, who knowingly, with respect to his aqaid of Islam, verbally or in practice, questions, rejects, or turns away from any commonly accepted rules and requirements of Sharia as a murtad. Understand? Any Muslim who is of sound mind is baligh and is able to make choices for himself, knowingly, with respect to his aqaid, verbally or in practice, questions, rejects, or turns away from any commonly accepted rules and requirements of Sharia as a murtad. I'm going to give you a few examples so you understand. I can't go into lots of details, but I'm going to give you some examples. Somebody says, for example, there should not be 5-time prayers. It's too much. This is just Allah made this very difficult for us. I just can't buy it. Why can't we just like Christians do go to church once a week or pray one time a day? Why is fasting so difficult? Why we have this is unhealthy. This is unhealthy from the health issues. All the science agrees that this is not healthy. This is objecting to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Why is it that it is in the rules about miras that women get one share as against their men who get 2 shares? Isn't that unfair? I can't buy it. This is not fair. Murtad. Why has Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala asked women to go through such hardships of covering themselves all the time and covering their hair, and not men don't know such restrictions? May women have to cover the whole body? This is too much. This is an unfair thing against women. Out of Islam. Let me clarify. If a person says this out of his ignorance, that's important to remember. If a person says this out of his ignorance, that he doesn't know any better, then he's forgivable. But if a person knows this and chooses not to agree with this and object to it, he's out of Islam. Look around you and your friends and your communities. How many people are questioning these things, unfortunately, and not know the implications of what is the implication of all of this. And if irtidad is proven and witnessed, the punishment of such a person is clear from the Sahih Hadith found in many books of Hadith. Please listen carefully. عن ابن عباس رضي الله عنهما قال قال رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم من بدل دينه فقتلوه من بدل دينه فقتلوه. Reported in many books of Hadith as Sahih Hadith. This is from Bukhari. Ibn Abbas radiallahu anhu narrated that the Messenger of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, he who backs off from his religion should be killed. Kill him. فَقَتَلُوهُ. And this was practiced in the time of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And all the Sahaba, including Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu, Umar radiallahu anhu, Uthman radiallahu anhu, Ali radiallahu anhu, Muaz bin Jabal, Ibn Abbas radiallahu anhu, including all Tabi'een, many Tabi'een, have not rejected this and have practiced it. Remember, right after the demise of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, there was a fitna of people not choosing not to give zakat. And immediately, Abu Bakr sent an army to fight against them. Says, we will take every piece of rope that you need to give in the zakat will from you. The Fitna-e-Irtidad started at that time. So, in the times of Sahaba, in the times of Tabi'een, this rule was practiced consistently, and therefore it is considered an ijma' in Islam. Now, remember, there's lots of fiqhi details in the implementation of these things. This is not my concern. My concern is not to talk about the punishment of it. Because if you look at it, subhanAllah, look at Saudi Arabia. The modern kingdom of Saudi Arabia is bent on modernizing Islam, am I right? It's not hidden from anyone. The present kingship, the present kings and the princes of Saudi Arabia and the Middle Eastern countries are bent, go out of their way to modernize Islam. And they're doing things and they're allowing things which are clearly against Islam. Am I right? It's not hidden. And the Western powers encourage them big time to do it and say, now you're a democratic country. Now you're giving anybody their rights. How are they going to punish themselves? They can never punish irtidad in their own countries because they are involved in it themselves. Look at all our Muslim countries, the same situation is there. So we know that we are not concerned, or should we concern ourselves about the punishment part of it, because there's nothing we can do about it. There's nothing we can do about it. But here's the problem. God forbid, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala hopefully would never let us see a situation in our homes. But if this happens, that your son denounces Islam, or your daughter denounces Islam, and says, well, I like this guy, I'm going to marry him. You like it or not, your problem. And it has happened. I'm not just making it up. People have given up their faith because Islam keeps them from doing something that they should not be doing, that's haram. And they don't want Islam. And they say if we take out God and hell and heaven and life after from our life, we're going to be more happy people. If one of you end up in this situation as a parent, what do you do? What will you do? It is such an embarrassing topic that you will not go to anybody to talk about it. You would want to hide it, am I right? You would want to hide it. You would not go to anybody. You would not speak to anybody. And you would have no choice but to keep this boy and girl in your home. Where are you going to throw him away? But the risk of this is this. Now I'm going to quote you a real true case. Some people think that Islamic schools are the solution. I do not believe that. Islamic schools are not the solution. This case that I'm going to present to you, that I have presented before many times. This young man, aged 20, never seen a public school, educated in Islamic school. Not only that, and Hafiz of Quran. Not only that, the whole family attended the halaqas of Islamic talks since the boy was small. A number of years ago, the father came to me and he said, I'd like to show you some of the things that I found on my son's computer. His laptop was open, and he was running a blog telling people who are listening to him that he has denounced Islam. That Islam is a religion that cannot be substantiated. That we have been prohibited to ask questions because there are no answers. And this is why Islam prohibits, and Islamic scholars prohibit, and our parents prohibit to ask questions. And there are many, many things that don't make sense about it. And he's never seen in public school. And he's Hafiz of Quran. Not only that, leading Taraweeh in the masjid. I said to the father, for God's sake, don't let them lead the prayers. He's not even a Muslim. he brought his son to talk to me by himself. And I said, son, I know you and your family since you were there young. What happened to you? Like, just help me understand. And I said, uncle, what happened was, I was being taught, and I was being basically expected to accept whatever I'm taught, never to question it. And I had questions coming to my mind, but was afraid to ask. And finally I started to search for the answers myself and found out there are no answers. There are no answers. So if these things cannot be answered, why do I have to believe in it? That's why I say, our concern is not the punishment part of it. Our concern and most important and urgent concern, in my view, is to learn how we must prevent it. That's the most urgent question. How must we prevent it? And how should the community, Muslim community, the scholars and the leaders support and assist the youth and the families who are struggling with this issue without judging them, blaming them, or criticizing them? I know that bringing up this issue publicly, I'm opening a can of worms that nobody wants to open and face. But sadly, it must be done. Because I have to deal with this day after day, week after week. The community, the families must wake up and deal with it. We must face and bravely deal with it with wisdom and hikmah. You know, as a rule, when I mention an issue, I don't leave you at that. I don't say this is the issue. So now you may leave here and say, so what now? You didn't give us a solution. But I will give it a solution because I practice it. Here are some points about the solutions. Number one, our scholars of Islam, supported by the community leaders, must develop a curriculum to teach the aqaid, rules and requirements of Islam in an intelligent, rational and easy to understand manner, encouraging questions rather than discouraging questions. Encouraging questions from all, old and young, and giving answers that would satisfy them, that would make sense to them. So the question is Islam's and its rules irrational? Astaghfirullah, astaghfirullah, astaghfirullah. Is Islam and its rules are basically to make our life difficult? Astaghfirullah. There's wisdom in every dictate of Islam. Why don't we learn this? Why don't we teach them? We need to learn to teach the deen differently. You know, dear brothers, sisters, I don't mean the criticism for what I'm going to say now. But we must understand this. If we created 1,000 new Hufaz in this community, will it solve the problem? If we created 100 more faqih who are sitting there giving fatwas, would that solve the problem? No. It will not solve the problem. Because the mufti of faqih will give you the fatwa based on what is right and what is wrong, am I right? And you may not understand why this is right and why this is wrong. And this is how it is. It does not solve the problem. Number two, this curriculum should be developed jointly by all the scholars in masajid citywide and implemented in each masjid community consistently. So no masjid should say, we are the leader in this. everybody should follow us. Nonsense. As soon as you say this, we are the leader in this, everybody should follow us, you drive the other communities away from you. We are all in it together. Nobody has to be leader. We have to work jointly together. Number 3, how it should be taught. The methodology of teaching this curriculum should also be developed jointly, so that imams and teachers are not doing their own thing. They're all teaching the same thing the same way, with the same rules, with the same principles. Number 4, each Islamic school, if they're wise, should incorporate this curriculum in their Islamic education program and should be given the top priority. You teach kids to pray. They don't know why to pray, because Allah commands us. You teach the kids to memorize some surahs of Quran. So what? You teach the kids how to make wudu properly and how to pray properly. Wonderful, but they don't know why. They're just rituals. We're teaching them rituals. We need to move away from ritualistic teaching of Islam. If we say make wudu, we should tell them why. How come? What does it do? Why don't we wash the whole body? Why just only certain parts? Pray 5 times. Why? Why can't we just pray 1 time? It's so difficult. Explain why. Is it explainable? You are right. Absolutely, it's explainable. If you don't know, then learn. Cover yourself. Why? This is oppressive. No, it's not oppressive. There's a reason for it. Sister, here's the reason. Does that make sense to you? For as long as we don't teach Islam like this, we have continued to have the problem. Number 5, teachers in the Islamic school should be educated and trained to check their own aqaid and their own comfortability with what they're going to teach. We don't want teachers who are obligated to come to school and wearing hijab, cover their hair, and their students find them in the mall without hijab. We need to check their own convictions, like, why are you doing it or not doing it? Do you believe in it really? And last but not least, parents and the youth groups in the city should make it their top priority to participate in this education program, for their own sake and for the sake of their children and their generations to come. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala protect our children's iman and grant us the wisdom to take this issue seriously. Allahumma salli ala Sayyidina Muhammad wa Sayyidina Muhammad wa alihi wa sallam. ربنا تقبل منا صلاتنا وقيامنا وركوعنا وسجودنا ودعاءنا يا رحمن. ربنا تقبل منا إنك أنت السميع العليم وتب علينا إنك أنت التواب الرحيم. ربنا آتنا في الدنيا حسنة وفي الآخرة حسنة وقنا عذاب النار وقنا عذاب القبر وقنا عذاب الحشر وقنا عذاب الميزان. ربنا لا تزغ قلوبنا بعد إذ هديتنا وهب لنا من لدنك رحمة إنك أنت الوهاب. اللهم حبب إلينا الإيمان وزينه في قلوبنا وكره إلينا الكفر والفسوق والعصيان وجعلنا من الراشدين. اللهم توفنا مسلمين والحقنا بالصالحين غير خزايا والمفتونين. ربنا اغفر لي ولوالدي رب ارحمهما كما ربياني صغيرا. اللهم اغفر للمؤمنين والمؤمنات والمسلمين والمسلمات الأحياء منهم والأموات. صلى الله تعالى على خلقه محمد وآله وصحبه أجمعين. Just a quick announcement. Next Friday, I'm supposed to speak at the Masjid in Park in Shore Park. The Masjid at Park in the Shore Park, I have an engagement there at 6:30 p.m. talking about the bonding of the family, so they're not all over the place. So I will not be here next Friday, but if you can make it there, that will be a very beneficial program as well. It is for the whole families. So inshallah, I would see you again, not next Friday, but the Friday after. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.